I thought the worst part of my trip would be a $70 beach chair scam or a $350 bar tab I never ordered. I was wrong. The real price was a decision that nearly landed me in a Colombian jail and taught me how quickly paradise can turn into a trap. That was me, 48 hours into what I thought would be a perfect escape to paradise. I'm Oliver, and this is the story of how Cartagena, Colombia went from dream vacation to absolute nightmare faster than you can say Gringo trap. Before we dive in, if you love real travel stories and want to avoid tourist traps, hit subscribe. Trust me, you'll want to hear how this ends. Let me set the scene. It's 2021, I'm 32, a systems engineer from Chicago, and I was absolutely done. You know that feeling? Lockdowns had me trapped in a shoebox apartment, working from home, going stir-crazy. I needed sun, I needed life, I needed something different. So I did what any burned-out millennial does. I opened my laptop, booked the cheapest flight I could find to somewhere warm, and before I knew it, I had my ticket to Cartagena, Colombia, on American Airlines. The moment I stepped off that plane, the tropical heat hit me like opening an oven door, but in the best way possible. This wasn't Chicago winter. This was paradise. The airport was small, intimate, and I could practically taste the adventure in the air. I dropped my bags at my Airbnb in the colonial city, prime location, walking distance to everything, and immediately went hunting for coffee. Because let's be honest, vacation doesn't officially start until you've had that first cup in a new country. Little did I know that coffee hunt was about to introduce me to someone who would completely change the trajectory of my trip and almost land me in a Colombian prison. Café del Mural, this artsy, colorful little spot with the smell of fresh roast hanging in the air like a warm hug. I walk in, and there she is, Lina, dark hair, bright smile, and when I stumbled through my rusty Spanish, "Soy Oliver, de Chicago. Mi español es poquito," she just laughed. "Poquito está bien. Encantada. Soy Lina." Here's what I learned about her. 28 years old, originally from Caracas, Venezuela, but living with family in Santa Marta while rebuilding her life. She was a teacher who'd moved most of her work online during the pandemic. And guys, when someone has had to literally rebuild their entire life in a new country, they develop this incredible strength and wisdom that's just magnetic. We spent the afternoon walking through the walled city, you know, those Instagram-perfect colonial streets with the clock tower and flower-draped balconies. A local guide even pointed out where they filmed scenes from Gemini Man with Will Smith, with motorbikes racing through these narrow streets. For those first few hours, it literally felt like I was living in a movie. But here's the thing about paradise. It always comes with a price tag. And in Cartagena, that price tag isn't always what you expect. We decided to catch the sunset at Bocagrande Beach. Beautiful? Absolutely. Peaceful? Not even close. Imagine trying to enjoy a romantic sunset while being swarmed by vendors every 30 seconds. Sunglasses, bracelets, oysters, ceviche in plastic cups, hair braiding, beach photos, massages. Amigo, massage, 15 minutes, good price. Paletas clinking in coolers, jet ski rentals with dos por uno deals. It was like human whack-a-mole. One guy smiled at me and said, "Hermano, masaje para tu novia, buen precio." I waved him off politely. "Gracias, maybe later." Lina leaned in close, and I'll never forget this. She said, "Déjalos, ellos trabajan. Just say, no, gracias. Let them work, but be firm." I was already sweating like crazy. "This heat is a sauna," I told her. She grinned. "El sol costeño. Te va a cocinar. The coastal sun will cook you." We rented 2 plastic chairs and an umbrella, seemed reasonable enough, and actually managed to enjoy the sunset. That's when Lina opened up about her story. Her voice got soft, distant. In Venezuela, my family was well off. My dad was the principal at our local high school. My mom was a nurse at the hospital. I studied education. I teach. She stared out at the waves. We had to leave our dream home. The political situation. A lot of our friends and family don't live there anymore. So many broken dreams. I asked if she liked living in Colombia. See, I do. But there's no place like home. I miss it. Here we had to start over. New friends, new papers. I had to change and authenticate my education documents just to teach. This woman was rebuilding her entire life from scratch, and she was doing it with such grace and strength. I was falling for her, hard. But I was about to learn that in Cartagena, even the simplest things come with hidden costs. And I'm not just talking about overpriced beach chairs. When we got up to leave, the chair guy walked over with a smile that definitely didn't reach his eyes. $70. $70. I blinked. That can't be right. But there we were, surrounded by his friends, no other tourists around, and I didn't want to create a scene on my first day, so I paid $70 for 2 plastic chairs and an umbrella for an hour. We walked away, sunburnt, tired, and with our first taste of what I'd later realize was just the beginning. Now, what would you do in this situation? You've just been scammed, you're in a foreign country, but you've also just met someone incredible. Do you play it safe and stick to tourist areas, or do you trust your new local connection and dive deeper into the real Cartagena nightlife? I chose adventure, big mistake. The next night, Lena and I decided to hit the clubs. The first place we tried was dead, like tumbleweed rolling across the dance floor dead. That's when a bartender leaned over with a helpful suggestion. 10 minutes by taxi, 10 minutes by taxi, a place I'll call Club Alto. Caribbean vibes, hip-hop, better crowd. Should have been our first red flag. When has just 10 minutes by taxi ever ended well for tourists? But we took the bait. The club looked legitimate, flashing lights, professional dancers, VIP sections, the works. I told the server exactly what I wanted. 1 bottle of aguardiente and 2 tequila shots. That's it. For the next few hours, we danced, we laughed, and honestly, it felt like the trip I'd dreamed of when I booked that ticket. Lena was incredible, funny, smart, beautiful, and for a moment, everything felt perfect. But paradise was about to turn into a nightmare, and it all started with 4 simple words from Lena at 11:30 p.m. We should head back. Curfew is midnight. Curfew? Nobody had mentioned a curfew, but okay, responsible thing to do. I signaled for the check. The waiter came back with a number that I had to read twice. $450 for 1 bottle and 2 shots. This has to be a mistake, I said. Lena immediately switched to rapid-fire Spanish. $450? No, no. And I could tell from her tone that she was just as shocked as I was. The manager strolled over, cool as ice. Normal price, but I will give you a discount. $100 off. You pay $350. Here's what really got me. Why were they quoting prices in dollars instead of pesos? This was clearly a gringo trap, and I'd walked right into it. I was furious, but it was late. We were in an unfamiliar area, and honestly, I just wanted out. So I swallowed my pride and swiped my card. But guys, that overpriced drink bill was about to become the least of my problems, because at that exact moment, everything went from bad to absolute chaos. The music cut, lights blazed on, and the doors slammed shut. Al piso. Armed police stormed in screaming, "Get down!" 70 people dropped to the floor, me, Lena, everyone, flat on our faces while police officers shouted orders and waved their weapons around like we were dangerous criminals instead of tourists who'd just been scammed for overpriced drinks. They herded us into a back room, started filming us on their phones like we were some kind of bust, and announced that we'd all broken curfew. I tried to explain. Our hotel said midnight. The officer just stuck out his hand. Pasaportes. Now here's where I made another mistake. My passport was back at the Airbnb, which was actually the smart thing to do for safety, but I only had a photo of it on my phone and my Illinois State ID. They started dividing the crowd, Colombians to one side, extranjeros, foreigners, to the other. And guys, watching them quietly release the locals one by one while keeping us foreigners separated, that's when the real fear kicked in. What happened next would either end with me on a plane home or in a Colombian jail cell. And it all came down to one conversation that I'll never forget. When it was just us, maybe 10 terrified foreigners standing outside in the humid night air, the hints became demands. An officer lowered his voice. "Podemos negociar. We can negotiate. $100 each." Suddenly, freedom had a price tag. A tourist beside me whispered, "Dude, just pay." And honestly, every instinct I had was screaming the same thing. Pay the money, get out of there, chalk it up to an expensive lesson learned. But then this woman stepped forward, calm, confident, completely unafraid. "Don't pay. Don't hand over your passport. I'm the daughter of a prosecutor here. This is illegal." Her name was Jessica, Colombian American, and the way those officers looked at her when she said that, I knew she wasn't bluffing. So here's my question for you. You're in a foreign country, you've already been scammed once, corrupt police are demanding bribes, and you have to choose between paying up or risking a night in jail. What do? Because whatever you're thinking right now, I guarantee you're about to be surprised by how this played out. They didn't care about Jessica's connections. They loaded 5 of us, me, Lena, Jessica, and 2 guys from New York, into the back of a police truck like common criminals. Sitting in that truck, bouncing through Cartagena's streets at 1 a.m., I kept thinking, this is how travel horror stories start. American tourist disappears in Colombia. Family searches for answers. They drove us to the immigration office, not jail, which was somehow both better and worse. We sat on cold plastic chairs under flickering fluorescent lights while they took our fingerprints and photos like we were being processed into the system. My stomach was doing backflips. Was this really going to end with me in a Colombian prison for breaking a curfew that I wasn't even sure existed? But Jessica wasn't done fighting. She started making phone calls, real calls, to real people with real power. Within an hour, and guys, it was the longest hour of my life, an immigration officer appeared with an apology written all over his face. Papers shuffled, voices softened, doors opened. We were free. On the ride back into the city, one of the officers in the front seat muttered, almost to himself, "Cartagena is a crazy city." Then he turned to us and said, "Enjoy the rest of your stay here. If you need anything, let us know. I will be here for you." The whiplash from corrupt shakedown to friendly tourism ambassador, absolutely surreal. After a night like that, most people would pack their bags and head straight to the airport. But sometimes the most beautiful moments come after the darkest ones. The next day, Lina and I escaped to Playa Blanca. White sand beaches, crystal blue water, grilled fish with lime, cold sodas sweating in the tropical heat. For a few precious hours, it felt like the trip I'd pictured when I first booked that ticket. "I needed this," I told her, watching the waves roll in. "Yo también," she said softly. "Extraño mi casa. I miss my home, but I'm still here." That phrase stuck with me. Here was someone who'd lost everything, rebuilt from scratch, and still found reasons to keep going, keep hoping, keep believing in tomorrow. She took the bus back to Santa Marta that evening. I cut my trip short and flew home the next day. Sitting on that plane, watching the Colombian coast disappear beneath the clouds, I couldn't stop thinking about how quickly paradise can become a trap when you don't know the rules. But Cartagena taught me some valuable lessons. Always ask prices before you sit, sip, or say yes to anything. Those friendly recommendations from bartenders? Often gringo traps. Keep your passport in the hotel safe and only carry a copy or backup ID. If police stop you, be respectful, show identification, but don't hand over your passport. And remember, not every officer is there to help. Most importantly, sometimes the people you meet in the most unexpected circumstances become your lifelines. Jessica saved us that night, and Lena showed me what real strength looks like. Cartagena showed me paradise always comes with a price. When those cops demanded $100, would you have paid it or risked the station? Let me know in the comments. If this story helped you avoid a similar situation, smash that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe for more real stories from gringos navigating Latin America, the good, the bad, and the expensive. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.